What truly makes someone good? Fear of hell, or the compassion within us? For centuries, religion used hell as a moral compass. But in today's America, millions live ethical, meaningful lives without believing in eternal punishment. This video asks a powerful question: do we need fear to be moral? Or is goodness something deeper? Watch to challenge what you thought you knew. Welcome to Axis of Curiosity, the channel where we explore life's deepest questions and challenge the beliefs we often take for granted. Today, we're asking, do you have to believe in hell to be a good person? It's a question that cuts to the heart of morality, faith, and human conscience in modern America. If you enjoy thought-provoking conversations that expand your perspective, make sure to like this video, share it with others who are curious, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss future explorations of faith, psychology, and society. For centuries, the idea of hell functioned as more than a religious doctrine. It was a cultural framework for shaping morality in America. Churches preached eternal punishment as a way to keep individuals aligned with community values, reinforcing the belief that fear of consequence was essential for social order. Psychologists like Sigmund Freud noted that societies often externalize guilt into imagined punishments, making hell not just a spiritual place, but also a psychological tool for regulating behavior. In early American communities, sermons about fire and brimstone were not merely theological claims but practical mechanisms to maintain discipline, curb crime, and preserve unity. Yet even as the nation modernized, the shadow of hell remained in family structures, schools, and even politics, subtly guiding choices by equating goodness with obedience. Today, however, scholars point out that while fear may produce short-term compliance, genuine morality tends to grow from empathy, compassion, and shared human values. This tension between fear-based morality and conscience-based morality remains deeply embedded in the American conversation about what it truly means to be good. Many Americans wrestle with the question of whether morality is truly authentic, if it is driven by fear of punishment. Historically, belief in hell created a boundary that discouraged harmful behavior. But psychologists argue that fear-based morality often produces compliance rather than genuine ethical conviction. Research by Lawrence Kohlberg on stages of moral development suggests that higher moral reasoning emerges, not from fear but from empathy and principles of justice. In daily American life, this contrast is visible. Some people avoid dishonesty because they fear divine judgment, while others choose honesty because they value trust and respect in relationships. Social scientists note that empathy and conscience often inspire deeper and more consistent moral choices than threats of eternal suffering. Modern American culture, with its emphasis on personal freedom and psychological well-being, increasingly views morality as strongest when it flows from compassion and shared humanity rather than fear of hell. This shift reflects a broader redefinition of goodness as something authentic rather than enforced. In modern America, secular morality has become a powerful force, shaping how people define right and wrong. Even outside the framework of organized religion, ethical systems grounded in human rights, equality, and justice often serve as the foundation for social values, guiding laws and cultural norms without requiring belief in hell or divine judgment. The civil rights movement, for example, drew strength not only from religious leaders like Martin Luther King, Jr., but also from secular ideals of freedom and dignity that resonated across communities. Psychologists highlight that empathy, fairness, and cooperation are innate human traits, observable even in children before formal religious teaching. Today, debates over climate change, gender equality, and social justice often rely on moral reasoning that appeals to shared humanity, rather than scripture. Surveys reveal that many non-religious Americans still place high importance on compassion, honesty, and responsibility, proving that moral integrity can thrive without religious doctrine. This evolving moral landscape reflects a society redefining goodness on universal human values rather than theological mandates. Conscience in the American context is often seen less as a divine whisper and more as a complex interplay of psychology and culture. Guilt, for instance, operates as an internal regulator that discourages harmful actions, even without fear of hell, functioning as what Freud once described as the superego, the internalized voice of society. Empathy, on the other hand, pushes people to imagine the feelings of others, creating a natural moral compass rooted in connection rather than obligation. Social conditioning also plays a decisive role. From childhood, Americans learn through family, education, and media what is considered right or wrong, long before they can grasp theological concepts. Modern psychology suggests that these factors together explain why even in secular households, children grow into adults with a strong sense of responsibility and justice. This understanding helps explain why many non-religious Americans still act with kindness and integrity, guided not by threats of eternal punishment but by conscience shaped through empathy and communal values. Over the past few decades, the number of Americans identifying as religiously unaffiliated, often called the nones, has grown rapidly, now making up nearly one-third of the population according to Pew Research surveys. This group includes atheists, agnostics, and those who consider themselves spiritual but not religious, reflecting a major cultural shift away from traditional institutions. What is striking, however, is that studies consistently show these individuals still uphold strong moral commitments, often emphasizing values like equality, human rights, and environmental responsibility. Sociologists note that many non-religious Americans volunteer, donate, and engage in community service at comparable rates to religious peers, suggesting that ethical behavior does not depend solely on belief in divine reward or punishment. Psychologists add that their moral choices often stem from empathy, reason, and a desire for social harmony rather than religious obligation. This rise of the nones highlights a broader reimagining of morality in America, where goodness is increasingly grounded in human responsibility and shared well-being rather than in fear of eternal consequences. The question of whether hell is necessary to keep people moral has long divided American thought. Supporters of the idea argue that fear of eternal punishment acts as a deterrent against destructive behavior, especially when human laws fall short or when no one is watching. From this perspective, hell serves as an ultimate safeguard, reinforcing social order by reminding people that nothing escapes divine justice. Critics, however, counter that morality rooted in fear is shallow and fragile, producing obedience without compassion. They point to societies with declining belief in hell, such as Scandinavia, where crime rates remain low and social trust remains high, suggesting that empathy and shared responsibility are stronger motivators than fear of punishment. Psychologists also argue that genuine moral growth comes from internalized principles of fairness and empathy, rather than external threats. In contemporary America, this debate reflects a broader tension. Is goodness authentic only when chosen freely, or must it be enforced by the shadow of eternal consequence? In today's America, the definition of goodness is gradually shifting from fear of punishment to a deeper embrace of compassion, justice, and human dignity. Many people no longer see morality as tied exclusively to religious doctrine but as something rooted in our shared humanity. Acts of kindness, advocacy for equality, and efforts to protect the vulnerable are now seen as authentic expressions of goodness, independent of belief in hell. Psychologists emphasize that when people act from empathy rather than fear, their moral choices are more enduring and sincere. This transformation suggests that goodness in 2025 is less about avoiding eternal consequences and more about building a society where fairness and care guide our actions. Thank you for watching and being part of this conversation on what it truly means to be good. If you found value in this discussion, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more thought-provoking explorations of faith, morality, and the human spirit.